Hello, Facebook world. Let me just check. Am I live? Can you see me? If you're watching, say hello. The usual jargon. There I am. I so resisted doing this live for 15 minutes now. So let me just first of all say I was going to go live at 7:30 and I didn't. Hey Taylor, love you. Yeah, I was going to go live at 7:30 and I didn't. And I've been sitting here in my head like, just cancel it. just cancel it. No one's watching anyway. No one cares. And I'm just so confronted by, people watching and being like, how does she have the answers for a relationship with awareness? She's not even in a relationship, And like this already predicted fear of what I think people might say about me, what they might think about me. And before anyone even says anything, I'm trying to move my phone so I can see your comments. Before anybody even says anything, I've already decided that what I have to say isn't worth it. It's crazy. Ultimately, hey Will, hey Michaela. So, relationships with awareness. I don't want to jump on here and give you more jargon that you probably hear everywhere else. So I just want this to be a conversation. What does that even look like? I know, that it's different for everybody how relationships work out, how they don't. I know for myself, I'm no expert in intimate relationships. I'm really not. And it's something that I talk about a lot because the more that I talk about it, the more that I discover as well about blocks that I have, expectations, ways that I listen to men. All this stuff comes up for me too. So I just like to have these conversations to explore what's there for everyone else. What are some of the things that confront you about relationships? Are you in a relationship? If you're watching, let me know. Are you like someone who is like avoiding relationships? I know I did that for a really long time. I was like, fuck that shit, not going there. Now, conscious conversations and being conscious in our relationships, what do I mean by that? It's something that I keep discovering about myself, and it's that it's usually my thoughts that take me out first. Taylor always tries to run away. Yeah, I get that. And I think we all have a similar version to it. The fight, flight, or freeze response. And I definitely have behaviors that suggest that I'm running away. I self-sabotage. And my last relationship wasn't too great, if I'm honest. I started dating a guy that I worked with, and we were seeing each other in secret. And I was, his supervisor. So it was really, I guess you would say it was really inappropriate from an outsider's perspective. I didn't see it at the time. I just saw this infatuation and this excitement, and I just started this new job and someone who I felt like I could really have fun with, and take the significance out of work. It really just took significance out of that position for me. And so I was like finding a way to bring myself back down to where I thought I deserved to be. Now, that is kind of what I would call self-sabotage. So I was sabotaging, I guess you could say I was really sabotaging my reputation, and I was sabotaging that part of my identity that didn't really know how to step into that role as a supervisor. And I was so conflicted with who I was at that time in my life. And this was only a couple of years ago, guys. So it's not like, not like this happened 10 years ago, a couple of years ago. And from an outsider's perspective, Emily, oh my God, she's so successful. She's doing this amazing stuff and she's earning good money. And, she's having so much fun in her life. And then, behind the scenes, I was dating someone who was very emotionally manipulative, and someone who didn't like to take no for an answer. So in that aspect, you could say he was quite abusive. And someone who was really not mentally fit to be in a relationship with me, someone who is constantly talking about emotions and coaching, and I found myself wanting to help him so much that I would lower my standards constantly. And by the way, this is not a rip at my ex-boyfriend. I don't think I'd even call him boyfriend. But, it's not a rip at him. It really, I think he was a beautiful guy. It's more like pointing to what I'd put myself through at that time in my life and what I wasn't conscious of. So this is why these conversations for me are so important. What are we not conscious of in our relationships? Because it's easy enough to say what we are conscious of, the things that we like, the things that we don't like, what's behind all that, what's running the show. And you can only look at really your own perspective. So in that scenario, what I could see was, instead of honoring myself and telling myself, I don't want to go out tonight, I don't want to drink, I want to spend some time alone, instead, I would roll my eyes, feel so resentful and so angry, but also scared of saying no, that I would go out anyway. I'd get drunk, and then I would just feel so sad and so used constantly, and feel like my self-worth started to really drop. I started to feel like no matter what I did, no matter what I said, that it was never good enough. And I started to feel like trapped in that relationship. Definitely felt trapped. And it was like this fear of, if I say no to this guy, what's going to happen? And this fear of, I don't know myself anymore, so I may as well just stay here. And, all of those fears and all of those experiences that led me to feeling trapped, I wasn't aware of. You could say that what was really alive for me was just sadness, withdrawal. Like, I really withdrew from my friends and family. I didn't tell them anything about this relationship, nothing that was really going on, because then they would try and fix and change what was happening, and that was too confronting. So yeah, it was just really toxic. I guess if you could call anything toxic, it was that. And what I really want to come on here and share about really is awareness in relationships looks different for everyone, because it doesn't matter what relationship you're in, whether it be intimate, whether it just be a friend, any relationship you're in, how to bring awareness really starts with you. So I started to look at my own awareness, and it wasn't until some really bad shit happened that I stopped and I went, oh my God, this this is not how I want my life to be. I was so resentful and so resigned that I would never have anything better than that I started to, it was kind of like I noticed that I started to sabotage it from the inside out. And I started to say things like I was going to leave him, but I loved him, to try and get him to leave. I noticed all these different things that I started to do to push him away so that he would decide to leave me, and it worked. But what came with that was a lot of backlash. So that relationship ended really badly. It ended up with a lot of naked photos of me circling my workplace, and it left me with a lot of anger, and it left me with a lot of mistrust. I didn't know myself anymore. I didn't trust people. I felt lonely, and I was so angry. I'd never experienced myself that angry before, but I just remember sitting in my car on the way home from work and just screaming and putting on all of those songs, that everybody loves when they're super angry. I just remember putting those songs on and just bawling my eyes out, crying and screaming and like begging for help to the middle of nowhere, just out the window. So that's where I was. And this wasn't anything usual, This isn't an unusual, experience that I'd had in relationships. There had been quite a few relationships that had ended really badly in the last few years for me. And even like the experience, I remember saying to someone, wow, it just keeps getting worse. And I don't know why or what is happening that I'm attracting this kind of relationship into my life, but the experience of it just keeps getting worse. And it really started, I was in a really bad job. The same scenario, I started seeing a guy that I worked with, and things got really intense and he couldn't handle it. And then all these rumors were made up and people were saying that I was stalking him and all of this stuff happened. And I was like, what the fuck has just happened? And I was like, how did that just go from being epic to completely turned around and feeling like I was completely at the mercy of it? And then the same thing happened when my nan passed away. I was with a guy who I didn't know very well, who was very abusive. And I was like, how did I end up here? It was almost as if I'd woken up from a dream. And I was like, what's happened? I have not been conscious for the last couple of months. And that scares me too, because I'm someone who has done a lot of work on my awareness, So same thing happened in this relationship. I got into this relationship and I was like, what is going on? And at one point, I didn't recognize myself anymore. And I stopped and I went, what the fuck just happened in the last 4 months? How did I end up here? And, the more I look at it, Rangamarie, thank you for joining, beautiful soul. The more that I look at it, the more I realize was that I entered all of those relationships having not created something for myself first. So, and I know it sounds that easy. It's like, oh, you make that sound really easy. Well, it is. The creation is the easiest part. And, I created just really owning myself and experiencing pleasure in all things. And I did a live on that last week, all about pleasure, but really like experiencing pleasure, when I go for a hike, experiencing pleasure when I'm sending messages, how to bring joy to it. And I started to look at what I really wanted in my life and started to have conversations with people where there was disconnect, started cleaning up my finances, making space in my life for pleasure and amazing people to enter my space. And I mean, that looks very different for everybody, but for me, it looked like saying no a lot. No, I don't want to do that, or really questioning whether I wanted something or not. And it hasn't been easy, but the creation itself is like, I really want the experience of just being adored. I really want the experience of abundance with relationships. So I'm creating abundance in love, that love is not something that you run out of. There's an abundance of it, and it starts with me, and I don't ever have to stop giving love. It's always something that I can give. And also, one of the biggest things that shifted for me in this creation was having boundaries. So I started creating boundaries for myself. And one boundary was that if my body, my heart, and my mind, and my vagina, if they aren't a full fuck yes, then nothing is a yes. And thank you, Taylor. I'm so inspired by you and proud of your courage to share. Thank you, beautiful girl. Thank you for jumping on. So if my body's not a full fuck yes, then it's no. And then I did an 8-week program to just shed some light on how to be a full fuck yes and look at what's in the way between me and others. And what comes up for me really is that mistrust. And so I started to look at where I didn't trust myself, where I didn't feel safe within myself. And, it led me to the next thing, which was that I don't think that I make good decisions. And so I end up with people that that I want to help. And ultimately, I know that these people aren't suitable for me, yet I have this thing in the background that says that I don't make good decisions. So constantly questioning myself, questioning my worth, questioning them. And it just turns into a fucking shit show. So here we are. That's really where it got to, the more that I kept discovering, I'm still in discovery, the more that I was like, wow, there's just really this constant exploration in relationship. And I created abundance of love. I created experiencing every moment in life as pleasurable, and created connection, and that I'm no separate from anybody else. And I really started diving really deep into what I actually believe and what are my highest values. And the clearer I got on my own values, the clearer I got on my values, my boundaries, and my beliefs, it became a lot clearer for me who I want in my life, especially as an intimate partner. And that's something that I've started to really attract, which I'm very excited about. And I've been on a couple of dates, but I've been on one major date that was really epic. So things are looking up. But ultimately, without that, even that result, who I am for myself is I just totally take care of myself now. And I have my own back. And I make really awesome decisions. I've made some really fucking rad decisions in my life. I really have. And I think that it's all part of the big journey. So I just wanted to come on and share that, and hopefully not hopefully, but I know that I've sparked some insight for someone else to now discover what's in the way of you really bringing awareness to your relationships. What's something that you're not even aware of, you could wake up in a couple of months and be like, shit, I didn't even know I was doing that. So it's start looking at the behaviors, start looking at what you really want in your life, and why don't you have it right now? What are the kind of things you tell yourself that have you separate from others, that have you not feel like you belong, that have you not receive pleasure or intimacy? What are the beliefs that you have? I know a huge belief of mine for a long time that I even spoke about a lot was I didn't believe in marriage. was something I spoke a lot about as a teenager. I didn't believe in marriage. I don't believe in marriage. It's just a piece of paper. I'd say that all the time. And that I wasn't aware of it, but really that thought and me saying that constantly, that belief had come from a lot of hurt, my parents separating and never really knowing you can't predict the future, and just that uncertainty that if you end up with someone and you get married, that you'll stay together forever. So it's the fear of the uncertainty in relationship that had me not want to be married. And I was like, well, that's a really, hey, Rachel, hey, Callum. I was like, that's a really limiting belief because, marriage, when I actually looked at it, it's just a commitment. And if I'm telling people in my life, I'm telling the universe that I don't want to commit to something, then I'm probably going to have people in my life that don't want to commit as well. And people in my life that show up that also have the same fear of commitment. Oh, everybody, Rachel Forbes has just jumped on and commented on this live. If you don't know Rachel, you have to go and follow her. She's amazing. She literally just gave me the best massage of my whole life. So some people are probably wondering why I'm so blissed out. That's Rachel's fault. And I'm just so in my bliss state. But really, like Ben's just said as well, it's great once you know what you want. Helps a lot to have your dream day playing in the background of your day to day. Yes, 100%. Yes, Ben, I love that. Have your dream day playing out in your day to day. Parents celebrated 62 years of wonderful marriages here. That's beautiful. Yeah, my parents did get back together, by the way. They separated for a couple of years and then they got back together, and they're living together and they're like newlyweds, It's like they've just met and, the sparks are alive again. And I started to look at my beliefs around relationship and what do I want? First of all, I started to look at what I want, and then I started to look at what's in the way of me having that. I've only ever grown up with failed marriages, so I'm so reluctant to marry, let alone date. It seems like inevitable separation and hassle to me, but you already know that. Callum. Yeah, I get it, man. I get it. And it's valid, Callum, it's valid that you feel that way. I never want to invalidate that you feel that way about relationships, because I know the history of your relationships, what you've witnessed with your parents, with your dad, and then what you have been, what's occurred in your life in dating. So I'm not surprised, man. And look, I was the same. I was like, of course, I was like, I have this history of people around me of failed relationships. I say failed like this because I'm like, it's not a failure. It's just an experience, and it's just calling it a failure would have me just being a complete judgmental asshole of all the relationships around me, judging what works and what doesn't work, and then comparing myself and what I want to them. And anyway, what I really got to see was when I started to really look at, hey, Jacob, when I started to really look at what I want in my life, the first thing that I started to look at was I want someone who grows with me. So someone who grows with me in my learning about consciousness, someone who values, these kind of conversations. Conscious conversations is what I call them, when really they're just conversations for humanity. So it's just talking about our own humanity. It's so funny. We make it all sound really fluffy, but really I'm just talking about being human. I'm just sharing and I'm shedding some light on what the real discoveries of what it is to be human. And my intention is that it makes a difference to someone else and that they get to discover more sides of their own humanity. There are usually ups with the downs, just sometimes the downs outweigh the ups. Yeah, definitely. Yes, Rachel. Yes, yes, yes. So, relationships. I've created pleasure, intimacy, juiciness, um, connection, growth, and uh, complete full self expression. That's my thing. My highest value is expression. And anybody like Jacob and Callum, you'll know that the most, that my highest value being expression, because I don't shut up about it. I want people to really just be fully expressed in their humanity. I don't even know what that looks like, by the way. I just know that I notice when I'm not being that. Here I am, expressing my humanity online with you. And it's so important to me because I believe, this is a belief that I have, I really believe, especially with men, that suppression is what has caused, such a pandemic with suicide and separation between, I see it a lot within men and women not being able to make a difference. And I started noticing this when I was doing shows online. This is going a bit off track from relationship, but it's there for me to share. I started doing shows online and men weren't showing up. And I was like, why is it so hard to get men online? I had a lot of people saying to me, men aren't going to go online because they're afraid to be near powerful women and all of these superficial comments, right? And I was like, I don't know if it's that. So I started going around and asking men, why are you a no? Why don't you want to come online to my show? Why don't you want to do a live with me? Why is it so confronting to be seen as a man online? And the men that I spoke to just said, it's really uncomfortable. It's hard enough expressing themselves in front of their friends after a couple of drinks than it is to go online and expose yourself to whoever's watching, the whole world, and that huge fear of being judged as a man is so dominant, and I realized that for me it was easy. For me, it's easy coming online expressing like this. I don't find this frightening. I don't find that I'm being exposed. I'm expressing myself comes really naturally. And then I come online and it's like, the biggest fear is for me to run out of things to say, but I don't think that's ever going to happen. So what I noticed was that men weren't showing up online. And then what was deeper than that was that men I'm noticing around me didn't have access to being able to express themselves. So then I started talking to my brothers. I started talking to the men in my life. And, we started to create groups for men to be able to express themselves. And it's still not enough. I'm still like, I'm still at this point where I can even see that the men in my life are expressing themselves in these groups, and they've started to do it with the closest people around them. But I want to go deeper than that, there's always a next level. So it's the same for me in relationship. Intimacy isn't like you get intimacy and then it's done. Yeah, it's over. I've got it now. It's great. And then you just maintain it forever after that. It's like this constant process, and this constant discovery and this exploration too. And it's not about being more, better, more of, better of. It's like the best. How do I even describe it? It's actually almost like taking away all the things that aren't working versus adding more to the pile. And that's what I love about expression. And that's what I love about, diving into relationship and consciousness, is that it's not about adding more information, and it's not about adding more better than needs to be better than this or comparison. It's about taking those things away and then realizing what you're left with is that you're no different and you're not separate to anybody else. And I get that for myself daily. And I know that most people do not have access to that kind of thinking. And most people do not get connected that way. So here I am. Here I am having the conversation. This is what life is. What is there to uncover? Yeah, uncover the things, that I reckon the uncovering is like, and it's funny, we call it uncover. There's all these like fancy words, right? But it's like having a look at like what is in the way of you really connecting with others. Very simple. And, some people may have been sitting there being like, what do you mean? I have good relationships. I connect with everybody. I'm very likable. I would have said the same thing a couple of years ago. Everybody likes me. But it really is being the author of your life, creating something, and then noticing what is in the space between you and that creation. What has you be in the space? For me, it's like I'm creating intimate relationships. I'm creating soulmate. Like I love the idea and the creation of soulmate. Oh man, it's so juicy. And I just love that I can spend the rest of my life with someone who totally has my back, who adores me, who wants to play with my hair, write me really fucking cute love letters, someone who I can just play and have fun with, someone who will let me cry and just hold me, and someone that I can do that for too. And they just completely receive me when I am doing that for them. They just know that I'm the person that they could go to, and not in a codependent way, but in like a real trust and an honor of the relationship. Yes, Rachel. Yes, I love this girl. She's my fave. I don't have faves, I promise. But no, Rachel, you are the bomb. She's in my tribe. We're creating our own tribe of awesome bisexual women. Anyway, so that's it really. Conscious relationships. What do you want in your relationship? I've just told you what I want. What do you want in your relationship? What stops you from having that creation? Is it thoughts? Is it something, do you think it's your circumstances? Is there something in your circumstance that has you stopped? Even Callum was saying it's his past. It's his past that stops him having, and even if he wants a relationship, right? This is his creation. But let's say Callum wants to get married one day. And I know that Callum shared with me that he would like to connect with someone and he would like a relationship. And what's in the way for him is what he's seen his parents go through. So what's in the way for you? Thank you, beautiful Rangamarie. Love you, girl. Yeah. So it's just a discovery. I don't have the answers. These are things that I'm discovering and I want to share them with you. So thank you for those that jumped on and were part of this conversation and this discovery. I do conscious conversations every Tuesday night, usually at 7:00. But as I said, I was distracted tonight. I had a beautiful massage and and I have these conversations to provide an access to others and as a reminder that life is short and, living moment to moment is where the bliss is and we get to create our lives. I know it doesn't seem like that a lot of the time, but, there is really an access out there to have a life that you just fucking love. And I know that because I have that access. And, I have a life that I fucking love. And I have friends that I adore. And I am totally smitten by someone right now I'm not going to go talking about just yet, but I do have so many juicy moments in my life, and I really just want others to have that access and that experience as well. Thank you, Rachel, for jumping online. Thank you, Alison, for jumping online and watching. Thank you, Rangamarie, Sarah, Joanna, Jared. Thank you, Alex. Thank you, Jacob, Callum, Ben. Thank you so much for your comment. You have a beautiful soul, my friend. I'm looking forward to hearing more from you too. And thank you, Taylor, for jumping on earlier. Chrissy, all of you beautiful people. Michaela, thank you just so much. I see you. I appreciate you. And it's all juicy, says Rachel. It's all juicy. Thank you for tuning in. I'll hopefully see you next Tuesday. Send me a private message if there's any questions you have about conscious relationships. I'm happy to have a conversation. And if you want to collaborate and be on one of these lives to explore one of these conversations, I'm more than happy to have people on that just want to have a conversation. They just want to discuss these things out of pure fascination. And having a look at what's next for us to discover as human beings. So if you're interested in that, send me a message. Good night, Rachel. Good night, everybody. Mwah. Enjoy Wednesday.